I am Curtistene McCowan, the proud mayor of the All-America City of DeSoto, Texas. Welcome to our initial program that's the beginning of a series on Focus on Leadership. I will be doing these interviews with various city officials and perhaps other leaders from the community and throughout the region so that you, our citizens, will become more familiar with what is going on not only in city government, but at the state level and possibly even at the national levels. And so today, we are kicking off our interview series with none other than Judge Scott Edward Kurth. Judge Kurth, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Mayor.
Thank you. Judge Kurth, I would like to begin by just asking you to tell us a little bit about yourself. Where were you born and raised?
I am the product of a military family. My father was a colonel in the Air Force, so we moved, you name it, we've either lived there or been through there. I was born in Birmingham, Alabama in 1959, while my father was in specialty training for oral surgery for the United States Air Force back in 1959.
Wow.
And then we moved to Alaska, then Louisiana, then Colorado, then New York, then the Philippines, Germany.
Oh my.
Now I've either traveled there or lived there.
So, Judge, you've moved a lot.
I have. We have moved. We moved consistently or constantly during my growing up.
Well, in your extensive travels, were there any experiences that you had that shaped your thinking about our country and its values?
Yeah, two experiences that I think about almost daily. One, when we were stationed at Clark Air Force Base in the Philippines, when the Vietnam War ended, my father was he was the base dental surgeon at Clark Air Force Base and was intimately involved with the treatment of the American POWs who were released from Hanoi. And that whole experience was, I have to tell you, it was something that just absolutely changed my thinking about who we are as Americans, our responsibilities. I remember one, I think he was a colonel, who was shot down over Hanoi and was released. They had a process of releasing these folks, the prisoners, from Hanoi in terms of the longest held and the most wounded were released first, and so on. And this colonel got off the plane, and we went to my school. We were in school at the Department of Defense high schools and middle schools. They all got out, and we went to the flight line and greeted every one of those planes that came in with the POWs, whether it was 2 in the morning or in the middle of the afternoon. School let out, and anyway, some of the things that these gentlemen said about serving our country and the values that they were serving for moved me, because some of these men's bodies were broken. They had been beaten, and I don't know, I've just never forgotten it.
And so that had just a major impact on your life. And how has that influenced what you do today, Judge?
A couple of things. Interestingly, we had an opportunity during that period. It was about a 3 or 4 week period where these folks were coming through, and they came to our school, and they came to our actual classrooms, and we got to spend an hour talking with them about their treatment, about why they still valued their service to our country. Remember, that war was very unpopular.
Oh, yes.
And the thing that I took away from it was the relentless spirit to overcome that these men had. I mean, they never, ever gave up. And they never let their values be compromised. I mean, remember, the Vietnamese wanted them to sign confessions for war crimes, etc., and they absolutely refused and were shocked and beaten, starved, and they still held true to their values. And, you know, in the practice of law, I went to Baylor Law School and became a lawyer, and I have to tell you that I think back on how difficult some of those those times were for me in the law practice, but how I just remembered time and time again, these folks never quit. They never gave up. And one other thing I want to share with you is when we were in the Philippines, we traveled extensively in Southeast Asia, and we went to Thailand. The Air Force had many military bases in Thailand. My dad would go and do surgery in Thailand on various American personnel that had been injured or wounded.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, one night we went to bed, as tourists. The next morning we woke up and there were tanks surrounding our hotel. There had been a military coup the night before. And I remember being escorted to the airport from our hotel to get on a plane to leave the country, and how there were tanks and armored personnel carriers and soldiers everywhere. And it just impressed me on how this was so different from the United States. With all of our imperfections, with all the troubles that were going on in our country at the time, we still respected the rule of law. And
so you think that may have influenced
absolutely
your
did.
going to
Absolutely.
law school and your practice up to this day? Judge, I had a brother who served in the military and spent at least 3 tours of duty in Vietnam, and a brother-in-law. I never really heard this kind of story before. Of all the stories I've heard, and as long as I've known you, Judge, I did not know that was part of your life's experience. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. And let me just ask, Judge, how long have you been engaged in the practice of law?
This is my 33rd year
Wow.
practice of law. I graduated from Baylor Law School in 1982 and have been practicing. I've had a family law background and a criminal law background throughout my practice. I did mostly, and any civil work that I did was in civil litigation.
Okay.
So, you name it, I've probably done it at some point.
Okay. And so would you share with our viewing audience when you started working for the city of DeSoto?
I went back in preparation for this interview, and I kept thinking of trying to nail down a date. And I know it was Thanksgiving, somewhere mid to late 1990s, somewhere in there.
Is that right?
It was the day before Thanksgiving, and I was sworn in, and was actually having lunch with my parents who came into town at the Jack in the Box.
Is that right?
And my first warrant that I needed to sign was while sitting at the Jack in the Box. The detectives were looking for me and found me there. So it was interesting. Yeah.
Interesting. So when did you become the presiding judge of the DeSoto Municipal Court?
Roughly 2001, 2000, somewhere in that range.
Mm-hmm.
It was a momentous occasion in my life. It had been something that I had long desired and sought. I was the associate judge for roughly 7 years in DeSoto. I handled all of the magistrate work for DeSoto and Lancaster before we built the Tri-Cities Jail. Mm-hmm. And the presiding judge actually was Ray Noah, who was from Richardson. And so I sort of was working under his tutelage, and he had vast experience, and eventually just sort of grew into the job.
And so this job has become a full-time job. And how did it happen that you became the full-time judge?
I became the full-time judge October 1, 2013.
Okay.
And prior to that time, when Dr. Richardson was the assistant city manager, I had the opportunity on numerous occasions to visit with him, have lunch with him, never thinking that this part-time job that I had would turn into something full-time. And he and I had several conversations about my vision for what the municipal court could be and should be. And I guess I made an impression because one afternoon he came to me and handed me an email that he had gotten from somebody talking about something another city was doing with their municipal court. And he said, "Do you think we could do this here?" And I said, "Yeah, I think we could. And I think we could do it a whole lot better."
Wonderful.
So one thing led to another, and he asked me if I would consider this position, and I said absolutely.
And so your vision has really become reality, right?
Thanks to Dr. Richardson's vision for the city of DeSoto. When I say he has a vision, I'm not kidding. I have gone to him and expressed my feelings about what we could be doing and what we ought to be doing, and I have never heard a negative word. He has embraced the technology. I mean, DeSoto, we're a city of some 50,000 people, but we are on the cutting edge in our municipal court in the use of technology. We were the first department in the city of DeSoto to become paperless. When I became the presiding judge, we began video arraignments so that our citizens who have been accused of crimes and arrested in our city spend the least amount of time in our jail as possible. Because remember, at this stage, every person is presumed innocent, and they haven't had a trial. My job as a magistrate is to see that they are given their warnings, bond set at an appropriate level to protect the citizens and the rights of the defendant to prepare a defense. So because of the video arraignments, we do video arraignments at least 3 times a day to move people through our jail and either down to the county or out on bond. And Dr. Richardson has wholly supported that concept, and quite frankly, so have you and the members of the city council, which I have deeply appreciated. I do also want to point out that when I expressed to Dr. Richardson about my idea of having a video docket, he was very supportive of that. And so now our citizens can come to court through their cell phone on video or through their computer. They can appear and take care of their traffic cases without having to come to court, and we do that every morning. So we have embraced technology, and we are continuing to expand the use of it in the municipal court.
Well, and I get excited, just listening to you talk about it, because I've seen how all of that has evolved, and it's just an honor to be on the, been serving on the council when it started, especially you talk about the technology and the innovations just within the municipal court. And so, and Dr. Richardson just being the visionary that he is, but you can only make it happen when you have staff with that, staff who embrace that vision. And so I know our directors here have that, including you, Judge Kurth. And so, again, the council has been supported because we want to continue to see our city move forward. I'm just curious, how many other courts are doing these types of things, to your knowledge?
To my knowledge, we are among the very first to use a video docket type system. San Antonio, Bexar County municipal courts in Bexar County have they have kiosks that they have set up in various supermarkets so that people can go in and take care of their traffic cases. But no one has used it to the degree that we have. And the interesting thing about all this is that it didn't require huge infusion of money. We use the technology that's out there. We have a thing called Zoom, and it's an electronic broadcast system that meets the requirements of our Code of Criminal Procedure. It costs us roughly $26 a month to use that system. We use common Dropbox type accounts to preserve these records as required by statute. The point I'm trying to make is that I'm so proud of this because we took an idea, we used existing technology, the cheapest technology that was out there to do the job, not just good, but excellent. And it's worked.
That's outstanding. That's outstanding. Why do you believe these innovations are important to the citizens of DeSoto? And you've addressed that to some degree.
Yeah, the whole point of a judicial system is that it has to be relevant to our citizens. If it isn't relevant, if it doesn't make sense to our citizens, if it becomes oppressive or overburdensome, then you end up with a lack of respect for the law. It's like it's like, if you're going to pass a law, then you should enforce it. If you have a law in the books, you should enforce it or get rid of it. Mm-hmm. Why? Because if the tendency is that amongst our citizens that, oh, well, they don't really enforce that particular law, then they just disrespect that law. In this instance, I try to make everything that we do at the court relevant to our citizens. If we have a law, we either, the city ordinance, for example, we enforce it, and we enforce it just as it's written. We follow the law, but we make their ability to have access to their judicial system in the city of DeSoto as easy as possible. Video arraignments. I'm there every day. They can come in and see me from 10 o'clock in the morning until 5 o'clock in the afternoon. If they can't come in the morning during the video docket, they can see me in the walk-in docket. They can see me on video. They can communicate with us at the jail if they need to. We have a whole system of payments so that if a person's in jail and he needs to post bond or pay a fine, we use GovPayNet. They can use the internet. They can use the telephone. They can use their cell phone to make payments.
Now, most of you know how passionate I am about children and youth. Tell me, what are some of the things you're doing in terms of working with DeSoto ISD and the youth from DeSoto ISD or any of our schools in the area?
The last 3 years, we've sponsored a Judge for a Day program.
Yes.
Where we take 2 qualified students, one in the fall semester, one in the spring semester, who meets certain academic requirements and writes a scholarly essay, and we appoint them as judge for a day. They shadow me. They sit with me on the bench. They're honored by the city council.
Yes.
What we're trying to do is raise the profile of a legal education and participation in the legal system above some sort of, scary foreboding that people might have about the judicial system, to let them know that the system can work for them. Additionally, we have a series of dockets that are juvenile dockets in our court to enable our juveniles who end up with criminal cases in our court to resolve their cases without them ending up on their record.
Great.
Which is exceedingly important given the competitive nature of college admissions today, and jobs as well. I mean, it's insane to believe that a child could go out and commit a Class C misdemeanor, stealing something at our Walmart or something, and end up with as a senior in high school at 17 and ending up with a criminal record that would prevent them from getting a job, getting a government clearance if they ever worked for the government, going in the military, etc. So I'm all about trying to, if you have a case, let's deal with it honestly. Let's see what we can do to mitigate the impact on the rest of your life. And let's truly make the punishment fit the crime, which at this level just shouldn't be life-changing, in my opinion.
Thank you, Judge. And one other thing, in terms of our youth, just thinking about at the high school, one of the academies, they deal with law and government, business. I mean, it's just a wide range of subject matter, but in terms of the legal profession, there's actually a courtroom.
Right, we've used
at the high school. You've used that.
Yeah, we used that for actually 2 years, as I recall. 2 years to try and again make a presence in the high school, to provoke an interest in some students in the law enforcement area, in the legal profession. To some degree, we were successful and have gotten a good response from it. The technology that we employed there was not as sophisticated, believe it or not, as the technology that we ended up using in their courtroom. So There was a trade-off, but
Sure.
it was a positive experience, and we may do it again in the future.
Great, great. Well, Judge, my final question is this. You've had the Judge for a Day program now for a while. Do you intend to follow up with those students who serve as your judges for a day?
I get contacted occasionally. I'll get contacted by these young people, and first off, they're exceptional. They're exceptional students. They're exceptional individuals. There is almost without exception active parent involvement in these children's lives that is encouraging them and prodding them to be the best that they can be academically. And so I've been asked to write letters of recommendation, and occasionally some of them will stop by and say, "Hey, do you remember me?" Of course I remember you.
Great, great. Well, thank you. Finally, is there anything else you would like to share with our viewing audience concerning your role as our municipal court judge?
All I can say is that it's the highest honor and the greatest pleasure that I've had, next to marrying my lovely wife,
Wow.
to serve as the presiding judge of the city of DeSoto. We are not done. We are every year we are making innovations in the delivery of justice to our community. One of the next things I want to tell you, the next thing we're going to be doing is putting together text and email notices so that in the unfortunate event that we have to issue a warrant for somebody
Yes.
for failing to appear in court or failing to pay a fine that they agreed to pay or was imposed on them after a trial, as soon as that warrant's issued, a text message and email notice will be sent to them automatically. The reason for that is that we have found in my long experience that these things tend to just be forgotten in people's minds. So what we have found is that if we can reach out to them very quickly after the warrant is issued, then for their protection and for the betterment of quite frankly, the city of DeSoto, because we don't have to carry so many warrants on our books, we can close these cases with a bond being posted and a trial being held, and guilty or not guilty being adjudicated, or the payment of a fine to get the case dismissed through a deferred disposition. So those are the things that are coming up, and I'm sure my explanation didn't do it justice, but that will be a major innovation in our community to let people know about their business with our court.
Well, one thing that's certainly clear is that we're keeping things moving.
Yes, ma'am.
In terms of innovation, and as these things happen in our city, again, we're transparent. We're making sure that the public knows exactly what is out there. And I do know that on an ongoing basis through our public relations staff here at the City of DeSoto, our website is constantly updated about things that are new and that's coming to our city. And I would just advise our citizens to please stay tuned. Stay tuned. And I want to commend you, Judge, and tell you what a pleasure it is to have you serve as our presiding judge of the municipal court. What a pleasure it's been to work with you prior to and since I've been on the city council and now serving as mayor of the city, and to let you know that it is my honor to have you serve as our first guest. Ladies and gentlemen, you have just had the opportunity to hear from our presiding judge of the DeSoto Municipal Court, Judge Kurth. We want to thank him again for joining us today. Stay tuned for additional segments in this series of Focus on Leadership. Thank you so much for joining us.